But across the global fraternity, in the event that is something worth discussing, we will always be here to discuss. Remember, Tanzania is going for an election, or they did, of course, their polls as of yesterday. And today we just take a look briefly at what this means on the aspect of democracy, first for the country, for East Africa, and for Africa at large, and generally the global fraternity, because we always say stability of every single nation is crucial towards, gaining stability across the world. So yes, they've gone for an election, but of course also claims or allegations of malpractices coming out. What does this mean? I mean, perennial conversations of tough times when it comes to that electioneering period in most of the African countries, and well, even the global fraternity. We speak of the European countries sometimes going through tough times. We are all eagerly waiting to see what will happen in the United States, whether it's going to be, a process that is going to be free and fair. I mean, Donald Trump himself pointing a finger at the, electoral process, saying that, in most cases, it is not legit. What does it speak? What does it mean when the key button or the main leader of the country says that? So even as we talk of the BBI, that is one of the things that it seeks to address. Every single year, or after every 5 years when we go for an election, we keep asking ourselves, just what can we do to ensure that we go through an electioneering period that is free, fair, smooth for every other Kenyan. So yes, elections are crucial. They are important towards us getting democracy, attaining democracy in totality. But equally, it is important that we have conversations that are going to be healthy towards ensuring that we are mature democratically to conduct elections free and fair, and to have the say of the people being heard on the very same processes of elections. So that is what we'll be looking at this morning, even as we take a look at the reports that have come out from Infotrack in regards to the performance of different counties. Yes, Kakamega County being ranked as amongst the best performing counties. What could have informed this? Where are the leaders who are women in different counties? How are they performing? In regards to, of course, setting out of monies down there, or sending the money, or disbursement of funds, and at the level of the counties, could this be something that is altering developmental activities? Why is it that some of the counties have been lagging behind year after year, report after report? What could be informing this? And things to note, of course, some of the marginalized counties, as they would call it, this is actually what informed the debate of revenue share. Most of the counties saying that they've been marginalized for a long time. Hence, it was very hard for the senators to deliberate on this. So we'll be taking a look at these marginalized counties, and we ask ourselves, what is it that they are not doing right, so that, even when the rankings are out here, they again are amongst the people who are right at the bottom. Even if they ask for more money, would it come in handy towards solving that? We also take a look at the surge of COVID-19 cases in the country and so much more. So welcome on board, and the conversation begins right now. Hashtag Morning Cafe at Linda_Lela, TV47KE. We'll be glad to hear what you have to say. You can as well call live. The number's rolling down on your screen. The SMS short code, as always, 22047. The gentlemen of the day are right here with me. As of course, we ponder some more and decipher, like I said, on this particular one. Seated right next to me is Alex Mong'are, who's an engineer and also political analyst. Good to have you this morning, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Good to have you. And the UGM boss himself in full regalia is equally right here with us. Agostino Neto, good to have you this morning, Mheshimiwa. Naona umevaa kweli kweli.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you for bringing Alex after a long time. And good morning, Kenyans.
Yeah, all right. So, tuambie mambo ya siasa kidogo. We can say that we can see the United Green Movement, a bit of it, on what you're wearing this morning.
Yeah, I mean, we are a party that believes in the environment.
Yeah.
We are a party that believes in youth unemployment. We're a party that believes in social justice and equality. Mm-hmm. And the United Green Movement Party is definitely Kenya's current national political party, and the party for the future. We hope we can build a strong infrastructure, a political party that believes in grassroots democracy, a political party that believes in feminism, and all those values and virtues that have eluded the political space for the longest time. And that is why we are happy to be here. And We're requesting Kenyans. We are participating in 3 by-elections. The first one is in a place called Gaturi in Murang'a, MCA candidate election there. We're also participating in a by-election in Taita Taveta in Undanyi in Mbale Ward, and also we're participating in the Msambweni by-election. We're requesting Kenyans to separate the wheat from the chaff and vote for the United Green Movement candidates in those 3 by-elections, and we'll be entirely very grateful and will not disappoint.
All right, well, we wait to see how that will culminate. We'll be following up on the respective events to update you accordingly. And speaking of separating the wheat from the chaff, of course, we have the BBI with us. We will be pondering some more on that later on, but not before we look at this crucial issue that is happening right here in the country. And Alex, in as much as we said it's time that we reopen the country, it's time that we go back to normalcy, reality is that the numbers are on the rise today.
The position is that the numbers are on the rise.
Okay.
And I, based on my observation and being a scientist, not very slow, not a very slow scientist. The fact is, if you don't test, you don't know the impact of the numbers that you have.
Right.
And we have a situation where the scientists in the government seems to be going back. They have been sleeping to an extent that they dropped the number of testing that they were doing.
Hold it right there.
You remember?
Hold it right there, Alex. There's something that we need to fix on your microphone. But coming to you, Neto, and yes, the numbers are on the rise. We would want to assume, we would want to say, let's save the economy. We would want to say that, what, let's overlook everything as Tanzania has done. But these reports are out here.
Contrary to what my scientist friend thinks, and I am worried that I am the one out thinking the converse, I really think it's true that the COVID-19 cases are rising in Kenya. And I think it is getting Kenyans at that point where everyone has thrown caution to the wind.
Yeah.
Most Kenyans are not taking any the protocol seriously anymore. People are no longer social distancing. People are no longer sanitizing, washing their hands. I really think that we ought to take this particular COVID-19 surge seriously. Yeah. And I think I would like to request Kenyans that let us do our very best. Our healthcare system, our healthcare infrastructure is not in a position that will take care of ourselves should you ever get hospitalized. So I really think that the protection, which is very simple, washing hands, wearing a mask, and keeping all the protocols, it's something that we must do. When the initial cases were happening across the globe, Kenya was not yet hit. Yeah. But I really think that this time around, Kenya is being hit, and it's important to take precautions. And so unlike the scientist Alex, really the cases are on the rise. In fact, I think earlier on, when COVID-19 cases started in Kenya, I think the government did us a lot of injustice. Yeah. They let our funds be stolen, procuring the wrong things. But I really think that now isn't the time we need the money that they stole. And I think Kenyans are going to really be caught flat-footed.
All right, and speaking of which, Alex, did you say that you're a scientist, or you said you're not as slow as our DP, who is the scientist in regards to this? And of course, I'd love to hear, again, your take on this.
Engineers are scientists.
Oh yes, okay. So you are, but not as slow.
Not as slow. The point I was making is that I was not saying that we throw the caution to the wind. We have a pandemic in the world, and that's not a secret. What I'm saying is that we keep creating artificial curves for this nation. If you remember, around the time that the president opened up the economy, the testing had gone down to up to 500 people a day. So if you test 500 people and you have 10% positive, you have a number of 50.
Yeah.
Today we are testing up to 7,000 a day.
Hence the numbers.
Hence the number seeming to go up.
Right.
What I'm saying is that our situation has been grave throughout.
Okay.
The situation has been the same throughout,
right.
But we are using statistics to justify whatever we want to justify. Because statistics are like your head in the oven and legs in the fridge. On average, you're okay.
Yeah.
Because you're hot and cold on both sides. You are dead because your legs are frozen and your head is roasted.
Right.
So you're dead. And that's what they're trying to do, the statistics. That's what I meant by saying that the statisticians are using numbers to confuse us.
Right.
Okay.
Now, it would have been very important, and I have said before, I watched Cuomo, the governor for New York, giving numbers, giving statistics of the situation in New York on a daily basis. And will give complete statistics. How many they tested, what is the percentage, how many people have been admitted in hospitals, how many people are in ICUs.
Right.
Today, if you ask anyone, they will tell you, especially the people who are in the medical field, they will tell you that most of the hospitals are full. Other hospitals are now building up spaces for more patients that are admitted. Has that changed? No. It's been through the same way through this period. And that behoves of the government instead of spreading fear, being able to tell the citizenry the truth about every aspect of the disease and what the effect in every area of our lives.
I'm curious, Alex.
We don't fear, but we face this pandemic with the necessary caution and precaution. If Mutahi Kagwe stands up at 4 o'clock and says that, look guys, if you treat this thing abnormally, if you treat this thing normally, it will treat you abnormally. And as soon as he finishes his speech the following day, we have all the big wigs in politics having public meetings where social distance cannot be done. What are you telling us?
All right, hold it right there. And in as much as we'd want to say the situation has been the same, the situation has been dire for the longest of time, our biggest question then would be, why is it then that the numbers as registered right now are being used to inform crucial decisions in the country? Such has been the case. The same crucial decision of having our students going back to schools was made based on how the numbers were coming. At this particular point, then they have decided we're not going to have the rest of the students going back to school simply because there's a feel that there's that surge, and not just a feel based on the numbers that are being projected by the Ministry of Health. So really, why would we assume that such has been the case for the longest of time, yet we see differences on how decisions are being made?
I mean, I think, and that's why I was telling Alex that I think there's an apparent increase in the numbers of COVID-19 cases. So whereas it's true that the testing numbers could be increasing, I think that it is true that the percentages of the testing is increasing, but also the cases are also on the rise. So that I really think that what the government is doing, which is what the government is thinking about, not really admitting the second set of students to school, I think it's a correct decision because those numbers, that statistics ought to inform what we do and how we do it. And I really think that it will be prudent on government to act on helping stop the cases. But the second thing that he says, which is an important thing, is I really think that the political class ought to up their game. They need to take Kenyans' lives very seriously. Social distancing, all these protocols should be observed. I mean, 2022 is far away. We have 22 months, and you can do many things in those 22 months. But I think let us also behave and keep and make sure that Kenyans are safe by observing the protocols.
All right. Well, now we have the honors also having Walter Mong'are Sr. joining us this morning. He's the Director, Youth and Development Executive Office of the President. It's always a pleasure to have such guests honoring our set. And yes, you came in a little bit late. Nyambani, for those who'd love me to do that or to call him that.
My apologies.
Yeah, you better be apologetic.
Part of the state of the nation, we are doing the all
Yeah.
from Yaki, all the way to the airport.
The one that has Subuad us. All right.
And I miscalculated, but I prefer to watch the students from
Uh-huh.
and I see what it's a good way of saying.
Better late than never, as they would say.
Apologies for running late.
It is okay. All right. So we're talking about the COVID-19 surge in the country, which is pretty much unfortunate. But then again, the question that Kenyans are asking today is that when there are likelihoods that probably there's not even COVID-19 in the country based on what they see. And then we compare ourselves with Tanzania. We are recorded about 900 or so cases of deaths. We have recorded about 50,000 cases of COVID-19 in the country. Yes, we have recoveries. I mean, then the question would be, why is it that we are not seeing such records coming from Tanzania? Or you want to tell me that is how much they can keep their secrets to themselves?
I want to restrict my thoughts to opinions.
Okay.
For two reasons. One, we have government protocol in terms of dissemination of information in terms of the COVID-19. And so I'll join my colleagues just to have an opinion as a Kenyan. One, it's very. I'll give an example. It's like speeding on the highway, and the three of us are speeding or the four of us are speeding and the cop stops one of us, and my excuse to the cop is, why are you stopping me and why didn't you stop the others?
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is that a global pandemic in the nature of the COVID-19, we cannot have the same results in countries.
Yeah.
We can't say, why is Tanzania better than us? Why is, no, we can't. That's number one.
Is it the same reason that Kenyans are saying, different regions are different right here in the country, so why do you treat us to the same approach?
I guess the mistake that we all made, and I'm saying this all in the sense that we have a government that is responsible for protecting the citizens, and we have citizens who have to follow protocols that then enable that intervention to work. And we made a mistake from the beginning, in the sense that this became a government issue. This became a Mutahi Kagwe issue, and not a country issue. And the lack of exposure in terms of how are the rest of the countries globally dealing with this pandemic. What are the statistics telling us? Are they going down? When you tell people 700 people, how many people have died? Versus 900. How many people have died versus those who are recovering versus those who are, we don't have the capacity to test every Kenyan for us to give accurate statistics. We don't have a national database where even contact tracing can be easily done. So I get where the rest of us are coming from, in the sense that we don't have the capacity to actually tell accurate statistics. And as I said, this is my opinion and not a government position, despite the fact that I work with government. And I think that is where the problem and the genesis of the troubles began. We've not taken it as a national problem that affects all of us, and therefore it's not a government issue. It's not just my issue, it's also your issue.
All right, I agree. And coming to you, Neto, resurgence was predicted, and it is, well, I don't want to say it's resurgence, because again, there's some few who've actually disputed that, and the likes of Alex would be like, why are you assuming that it's actually a resurgence? The president has decided to convene, a crisis meeting for that matter. And we've seen numerous meetings for the longest of time in regards to the same. Do you suppose the government is dealing with this in the best way, in the utmost of their ability?
I think it's a good thing that the president is reconvening this particular COVID-19 crisis meeting. But two things that the government got wrong from the word go. I think they treated COVID-19 issue as a security issue. When you want cops to be the ones enforcing masks, when you want cops, when you remember when they were arresting people, turning around the whole places, and it became a money-making enterprise for the country. I think what the president should have done at that time, and I'm happy Mong'are is here, he can actually report some of these things firsthand. COVID-19 should have been a public health issue, where public health persons should have been involved, the community health workers should have been involved in terms of educating the masses, in terms of the safe protocols, as opposed to leaving it to the chiefs and the cops to do that. That is number one. But the second thing that we did not do very well as a country, which I hope now they can do in this second phase, is safety nets. Safety nets. If you look at a country like Rwanda, granted, slightly more organized in terms of their social capabilities than we are. They are families that are hungry. There are families that rely on the daily wage. The person who walks from Gikomba to the person who walks from Kibra, the person who walks from Mong'are to industrial area. These are people who live on the labor of the day. So government should have worked properly in terms of protocols for social safety nets in a manner that protects all of us, because there's no way you can be at home hungry with children. So they're happy to be out there catching the disease as opposed to being inside the house dying of hunger with their children. So I really think in terms of social safety nets, the government needs to do better. And the third thing again is how we look at the procurement of the PPEs, for example. I think we need to there are things to steal and others not to steal.
Yeah.
You cannot have a government that, even as crucial things as PPEs, that you want to make money, you want to make a business out of it. I mean, there are many more things to sell to make money out of. So I really think that if at all they tamed the appetite for theft and corruption with regard to sanitizers, with regard to PPEs, I think that we'll be doing very well. But in terms of convening another state of the country address, I think it's a good thing so that at least we identify what is it that we can do and improve better on. But I hope they can take 2 or 3 of those cues that I gave to make it better.
Well, as we get to wind up on this, Alex Mong'are, how then can we just get Kenyans looking at this as really something that we need to deal with as a country in unison, as the global fraternity is doing, and overlook that aspect of graft, that aspect of, it being a money minting affair? Because, I mean, talk to people around, and, well, like Nyambane would put it, we should not focus much on the opinion of others. But reality is that Kenyans are convinced that this is more of a money minting affair for the government or some officials as opposed to an issue that we should deal with.
Linda, I hope you've heard of a saying that actions speak louder than words.
Yes.
To an extent, if I keep telling people that we have a dangerous pandemic that is happening in this nation, it's something very dangerous. Don't go out, don't do this, stay at home and all that.
Yeah.
And yet, the people that people look to for direction are not doing it, then obviously people will not believe in anything that you say.
Yeah.
And it is a very unfortunate situation, and the solution to this is common sense to reign in this leadership of this nation.
Yeah. Basic
common sense that you do what you say. And I'm not talking about members of parliament, I'm talking about from the top, from state house.
Yeah.
Because you can't have a president walking around holding barazas in public with no protection. You have a deputy president doing the same. You have so-called opposition leader doing the same. And then you have a variance of if you remember when Nairobi was locked up because the numbers in Nairobi were supposedly high, Tuoli was holding parties of hundreds of people in his home in Isinya, which means he broke the protocol by people like Raila Odinga and Mong'are and the rest of them driving all the way to Isinya. If you have that kind of nonsensical action from leaders, you cannot expect the citizenry to use common sense.
Which probably informs the feel by the citizens that maybe there's something that the government is not telling us, right? Let's bring in Walter and ask this very question. Just how then do we push the BBI narrative without having these congregations, without having these campaigns that we're talking about, without having our leaders going on ground to, publicize the document? Now we are going to BBI.
I'll speak from a point of information in the sense that from the highest office in the land, that's the office of the president.
Yeah.
There are a couple of public gatherings that we've continued to do, and protocol has been observed.
Okay.
You recently saw what happened at the Mashujaa Day. As much as the president would have said, let's do it virtual, we thought, why don't we have a conversation with the country, with the protocols in place. I can't, as I said earlier, I'm not here to defend a certain position. We're here to look at it as a country and to look at it as a people, and give our thoughts and opinions in a way that can help resolve the crisis if our opinions would help in that case. I just want to say that when we avoid having sensational conversations, then we begin to be a nation that is listening to one another. We can all be mad. We, government officials, non-state government people, we are all affected by the pandemic. Even as we are seated right here, there are things that we must come to terms with. And as I said earlier, if we avoid the situation where we are looking at government as you have failed this, you've failed in that, then it becomes very difficult. I understand. And I truly feel when the president goes out to call for a meeting, it's the state of preparedness of the nation that we must continue and continuously be observing. We can't say that we've gotten it right, and we can't say that everything is now okay since the president did the last meeting and we are all set. And that is the essence of a continuous process of reviewing, changing what we need to change, what tactic is not working. I do appreciate that the BBI is a political, a political thing, as it has been seen, where we are now looking at the personalities running the agenda as opposed to the content of what we call building bridges. So I feel as a people, and you as media, and giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts, it's the best way to resolve some of these things.
Right, and without doubt, Neto, I will assume that by the virtue of you opposing the BBI document, it's simply because you've gone through it.
Yes, I have.
Why do you suppose that this is not going to bring the change that we look for as a people? Why do you suppose then that we are not at that constitutional moment?
First of all, is to say that as a United Green Movement Party, and as I co-lead the party, is that we've taken a chance and read the document, and we think that the BBI document as it is right now should be rejected by Kenyans. And I have a couple of reasons. As a party, we have come up with 25 reasons, but because time will not allow us, I'll try to highlight 5 or 6 of them, and the gentleman here will be free to contradict me. But first, let's start from where the problem is. The BBI document is in 2 parts.
Yeah.
1, there is a report of the steering committee, and then 2, there are annexes to that report. So those are 2 different things. There's a BBI report and then annexes. Now, it's the annexes that contain what the presidency and Raila Odinga are taking to Kenyans as the content of the BBI. Yeah. The annexes has the help loan, the tax breaks, it has the health commission, it has the public participation bill, it has the finance amendment, the PFM Act amendment, which talks about the county assembly bill, the county assembly fund. Now, those are annexes to the BBI report. I'll come to the content of the BBI report. The BBI report has in it what is called the Constitutional Amendment Bill 2020. Now, with regard to the annexes, the content of those annexes are very good. Good because it proceeds to give youth 4 years of help. It proceeds to give youth 4 years of tax break. But 7 years of tax break. But now let me explain that there is nothing in the annexes that you need for purposes of operationalizing the Constitutional Amendment Bill. Okay, so that the annexes can be passed right now in the House of Parliament, so that people are not going to go to the referendum to pass the annexes. People are not going to go to the referendum to vote for the help loan. People are not going to go to the referendum to vote for the tax break. Yeah. So, because people are not going to go to the referendum to vote for that, what Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta are selling to Kenyans is a fraud. Okay? Yeah. Let me tell you why the BBI that they're going to check to the referendum should be rejected. Okay. It is because of the BBI. The Constitutional Amendment Bill proposes a couple of things. The first one is what I'll talk to, then I'll give them a chance to controvert, so that at least we have an informed argument. Yeah. First, the Criminal Commission, the BBI was supposed to be that thing that was supposed to bring peace and tranquility after elections. Yeah. If I had the president correctly, and if I had Raila Odinga correctly, that Kenyans are always fighting after every election, so we should have peace after the election, isn't it? Yeah. That was the reason why it was brought. Now, the Criminal Commission that investigated the 2007-2008 post-election violence told Kenyans that an electoral body should be independent. So that they said the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission should be one that is non-partisan and independent. That was one of the recommendations of the Critical Commission. The second thing the Critical Commission said was that the electoral body should be put in place 2 years, at least, before the election. What does the BBI propose? That's one of the proposals. I told you I have 25. If time allows me, I'll break them down for Nyambane and Mwadi to understand. And
allow them to come in comfortably.
Yeah. So first, with regard to the Independent and Electoral Boundaries Commission, what does the Constitutional Amendment Bill that is contained in the BBI report say? And you remember I said, forget about the annexes, because the annexes do not need to operationalize the Constitution. Yeah. So it is the Constitutional Amendment Bill that is going to be taken to the Kenyans for the referendum. So that is what they will vote for. It says that IEBC should be put in place for 4 years. Yeah. That means that the commissioners are not going to have a chance to have a cycle. Yeah? Right. Number 2, it proposes that the IEBC is going to be nominated by parliamentary political parties, 4 of the commissioners. Now, essentially saying that you already have a partisan IEBC because Jubilee and ODM are going to be the ones proposing the commissioners, to the chagrin of United Green Movement Party, to the chagrin of ANC, to the chagrin of Wiper. And remember, I came from the point of saying, Critical Commission told us the IEBC ought to be non-partisan.
And such was the case, I would want to believe, in 2017. But just,
let me first of all say why the proposals in the...
Yes.
We
might end up locking them out.
Let me say, first of all, just talk on the IEBC.
Let's make it brief.
Okay, so the fourth thing is that this particular constitutional amendment says that the commissioners, as they sit right now, in the transitional clauses, shall be vetted, and those found to be culpable shall be taken away. Now, the Constitution already proposes how to take away the commissioners. I do not like Chebukati much, but he is a Kenyan with rights to protect. If at all someone thinks, for example, he's not able to be in office, he should. The Constitution shows how to remove an independent commissioner. On those three bases, for example, just on one on IBC, I really think that the BBI is setting up Kenyans for yet another interesting sitters.
Alex Mong'are. Actually, the last time Alex was here was that very actual day when the report was given to President Uhuru Kenyatta, and he said we cannot debate if we do not have a report. So at least he has grounds to have a debate.
I said we can't debate because we didn't have a report. And I know people are debating it all over the places, in public places, and I was telling them, look guys, what are you talking about? You don't have a report. Today you have a report. And after reading the report, the questions that then one asks themselves, by the way, let me address some other issue that Nyambane raised. When you question government officials at the highest office for not doing what they say, you're not being sensational. You're just using common sense. You're telling them, please, follow what you're telling people to do. You can't have your cabinet secretary telling people that social distance, and then you go for public rallies all over the places, Nyeri and all over the places. It is wrong. It doesn't matter who has done it. Whether it's the president, deputy president, or whoever it is, it is wrong. Let's do the right things. Let's do the right thing. Now, you mentioned that it's sensationalizing, being emotional about it. It's not. It's being factual, and this country will only be built by all of us being level. Now, BBI was a meeting between two minds. If you remember, at the beginning, it's only that last week that President Uhuru said that Ruto was involved. But we've always known that two men met in an office, discussed about what are the issues that ail this country, and they came up with 9 items that are there. Okay? And these 9 items had to do with corruption, has to do with so many things, but the basic thing that we fought was because of our electoral system. So one would have expected a BBI that addresses that problem. A BBI that addresses that every 5 years we have a cycle of violence when you go for elections. Unfortunately for me, and I need lawyers to, maybe there's something I'm missing in between, reading through that document, I don't see it addressing that as an issue. And even during the launch, the president actually explained that we are a tribal nation and admitted that, look, we've got to be honest with each other, we are tribal. Even myself, when it comes to election, I tend to go back to where I come from, and I tend to bring in my tribal feelings on the table so that we can have a sharing or whatever. So if that be the case, I've read that document over and over again, and it has not addressed that issue in whichever way. Now, what it has done is something that landed people like Neto know, called Potemkin villages. You know Potemkin villages? Potemkin was a leader in Russia, and he created artificial villages for the queen, Queen Kathleen. So that as Queen Kathleen went around the country, she would see a beautiful village, and it would be dismantled at night, and the following day where she went, it went. So you have a help, you have these SMEs, you have these helping young people. All those things are things to make the thing look very nice and very enticing to the Republic of Kenya.
But in essence, you think
it has not addressed the issue for which the committee was established.
Walter.
Alex and Neto and Linda, one of the things that I always say, despite the fact that I'm in government, does not make me a sycophant. and does not make me sing praises where things, because I'm a citizen in the first place.
Right.
And therefore there are things that we question even in government when somebody is not doing his job.
Right.
And that's the right thing to do. When we talk about the BBI, Neto has been very categorical. He has given a position of his party. We should reject.
Okay.
My brother Alex has talked about an aspect that it was meant to resolve, but it's not coming out clear.
Yeah.
This is what I would say as Walter. Anytime, and that's the problem that we've had in this country. Anytime we are making an attempt to resolve something, we politicize the process. And the moment we politicize the process, then we lose the actual conversation that we need to have.
Yeah.
If you listen to the DP, Kinley, he said, this is for national discourse, this is for national conversation.
Right.
We can just like even the election as it is, our president had 7 million people voting for him. We have another 7 million people voting for Raila.
Yeah.
So even if the manifesto for Uhuru Kenyatta was super, he still could not garner the other 7 million.
Right.
And just as brilliant as the ODM NASA manifesto was, they could not still garner another 7 million. So we are saying that at any particular point, even as we are seated here, we have difference of opinions when it comes to a certain item. I would want to restrict my thoughts to the global agenda of the BBI discussion.
Okay.
If we truly say that every citizen must have an opportunity to understand deeply what it means so that they can make an informed decision, then therefore I would ask Neto and myself here to stop having a quick position of let's reject this, and let's then give everybody an opportunity to deeply understand the document, pick what is working, and that is not working does not necessarily mean it's bad. If it doesn't suit you, it doesn't mean it doesn't suit me. So my thinking here is, let us give the BBI process, an opportunity. Because what we are trying to do as a nation is to try and say, okay guys, anyway, what we experience every 5 years is nonsense.
But hold it right there. And I'd ask this question. They say it's going to be a very expensive process. And Kenyans then would want to ask, do we really need to have this conversation at this time when we're dealing with so much COVID? The wage bill is extremely too high. There's still so much. Would we be justified to argue that maybe we can postpone this conversation for another time until we deal with what it is?
By putting that in perspective.
All right. Briefly, I remember Neto is on standby. And you can, gentlemen, this is not a question answer session.
You realize I'd not even finished.
I think let's no. I mean, Alex, I think let's refer to Walter so that it does not look like we are two people. Walter, I think it's important to finish what he wants to say.
But make it brief, though. But make it brief so Alex can come in.
Linda was becoming very brief. Only that I was catalyzing Alex to speak, which is good.
All right.
I think this is there's never a quick fix.
Yeah.
That is the one thing that I know. And I think we all make that mistake, that we want things to be perfect and we want things to work in a certain way.
Yeah.
Even as government, the reality on the ground is that with the BBI agenda, with everything that is happening in the country, of course you expect some sort of rejection from the public on that. I would want to give BBI a chance on public sensitization, where we do our necessary things that we need to do from his party, from my office of youth, to have a conversation, a national conversation, so that we have somewhere we're going. But anything that we need to call change, in my opinion, is very disruptive.
Yeah.
It doesn't follow protocol. It's very expensive, it's very disruptive, and in most cases, it's almost impossible.
All
that
right.
is my opinion. And so long as those are the attributes of the BBI, I would go for it, because then it changes the paradigm.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, our biggest fear then would be on the implementation. After we've changed and everything, that is what NATO is going to react to. And you will also react to that, because, we also had a very good conversation on the 2010 Constitution. Today, we are the very same ones who are decrying that this has not been implemented. One
of the things that BBI does very well.
You don't want Alex to come in? All right. Okay.
Alex is my senior, so I'll let you go.
I've learned to be patient.
You cannot, otherwise you will not.
Alan Jackson used to sing a song that used, the older I get. And when we are young and we love country music, it didn't make any sense. But today it makes a lot of sense.
It makes so much sense, yeah.
That
comes with the age.
The older you become, the more you know what you give a damn or you don't give a damn about. Like when the government behaves badly, you call them out and tell them to behave properly. The perspective I wanted to bring out is the whole issue. You mentioned the whole issue of cost. And as a government of the Republic of Kenya, and these examples have been there in Singapore, Malaysia, and the other countries, the government is meant to think, Mong'are and the rest, where do we go 50 years from now? What will we be like? Not what will happen next year during an election. It's supposed to be a long-term view so that you address issues of people. 57 years after independence, this country still struggles with exactly the same problems that it had in 1963. Education. You see, we have now so many universities, but you have just seen a report questioning some of the universities and what they are doing. Hunger is still there. Poverty is still there. We still don't have a health system in the whole country. So when you are not even addressing those issues, you're addressing a lot of side issues. Today, our money collection in this country is 1.67 trillion. We set a budget every year of about 3 trillion shillings.
Right.
Which means from the day we step out, we are saying we are living beyond our means.
Right.
Out of the 3 trillion budget that we do, NATO, and confirm this because we've been in Parliament, we spend about 900 billion, it's about 1 trillion shillings to pay debt, which means we only have 600 billion shillings for expenditure, out of which 500 billion we spend it on normal expenditure. So when we are going to a referendum, when we have spent 10 billion shillings on preparing that document, and now we are planning to go to a referendum that would cost us 2 billion
14
shillings.
billion from what IBC says.
NATO will tell you that the election in 2013 costed you 44 billion shillings. Fact, 44 billion shillings. So when somebody talks about 2 billion or 14 billion, I don't know what they're speaking from, because the past is a good indication of the future. Are we ready for that, or we need to address the real issues that are there?
As expensive as it may be, Neto, honestly, if it's really going to address our issues, I mean, we'd all want to go that route and say, it's just one-time pain and eventually we enjoy. But implementation is a problem with us.
Linda, Kenya's problems are twofold. Something called the lack of constitutionalism and the rule of law. I mean, if you sorted out those two problems, that you have Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga obeying the law, they can't even obey COVID-19 protocols. How do you expect them to obey the Constitution? Okay. And one of the confusions I wanted to have with Nyambane, and Nyambane, when we form government as a United Green Movement, we'll make you an ambassador. You're very nice, you're polite, and you're the sort of fellow we need for diplomacy out there. Let me just explain to you a couple of things. BBI diagnoses Kenya's problems very well. It shows Kenya's problems are inequality, Kenya's problems are equal opportunity issues. Yet it proceeds to give the wrong prescription. Right now, the Kenyan youth, wherever they are, in Nyeri, Homa Bay, Lamu, are talking about youth unemployment. It is a real thing, and that is why you see the deputy president, he's been in government for 8 years, is now he's discovered that the youth unemployment is a serious thing. He wants to play around with it. Inclusion is not about Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta and Mudavadi and Kalonzo Musyoka sitting on the same table to dine. Inclusion is about the voice of the youth, it's about the voice of women, it's about the voice of persons with disability. That is what inclusion is about. Inclusion is not bring all these tribal people. In fact, I watched someone say very ridiculous things before we got on set, me and Mwadi, that because you brought the tribal chiefs, I was in Murang'a and Kirinyaga this weekend. The youth of the country there do not feel for Uhuru Kenyatta. They don't think that a Kikuyu president has helped them, that Uhuru has made the price of milk go down. That's what they're saying. They're saying that the price of tea is no longer profitable. That is a Kikuyu youth who is feeling. It's not that because Uhuru is a Kikuyu president, now they think that is a good thing. No, they do not feel included as the youth of the country. So one of the things we must do is find what is the best way to make the country included. What does that mean? That you have to deal with Kenya's extractive institutions. What are extractive institutions? Extractive institutions is the sort of thing you have in government that, for example, a presidency and Article 55 of the Constitution is supposed to be giving access to youth employment. That is what the Constitution says, that they should be taking affirmative action in terms of making sure that youth have jobs, youth have relevant education. Yeah. Have they done that in 8 years? They've not. So that you think that sorting out Raila's desire to be president or William Ruto's desire to be president is to have an expanded executive that sorts out Kenya's problems. That's not true. Okay. We just need to have a country where Parliament, for example, does its job, making sure that youth have opportunity. So now one of the things that BBI has failed to deal with is that they think if you have a vice president, a deputy president, all the tribal chiefs are going to be together on the table and everyone is going to sing hallelujah. No, that's not how to deal with these issues.
But don't you think that is what we subscribe to as a people? I mean, sadly, or so to speak.
That is not true. And Linda, this is why I'm telling you that people, when there was post-election violence 2007, 2008, after the Kikuyus and the Kalenjins fought, after the Luos and the Kalenjins fought, there was a second sector of fighting that Uhuru Kenyatta, that Raila Odinga and Kibaki started in the country. It was the class problem. The people from Kibra were moving to the estates nearby to steal from the rich, because now they had fought, the Kikuyu and the Luos had fought each other. They discovered they're all poor, they're all broke. Now they moved to a class fight. Yeah. And that is what is happening right now. And in 2022, what is going to happen? It's not going to be the Luo Kikuyu youth fighting in Nakuru. Yeah. They're going to be looking for rich people who have been sitting there, the Uhurus, the Railas, and they'll be dealing with them.
All right,
Linda, next time I'll come early and I'll sit where Alex is so that I can get an opportunity to speak more.
Because the closer you are,
the closer I am to you, if you remember me. But I want to agree with Alex and Neto, and yourself for one reason. That is why we are on this privilege to speak and share our thoughts. We are a corrupted nation, morally. And much of the issues that we are actually experiencing is a moral corruption. Guys don't have morals anymore. You don't hold us, you don't have the ability to hold us accountable as government officials. Why? Because when you come to those offices, you are corrupt as hell. You want shortcuts, you want quick fixes, and therefore for those of us who are in government who can take advantage of that, we do the necessary to take advantage of that. So I think for me, it's not an economic issue, it's a moral issue. The social fabric is messed up. When it comes to elections, who are we putting in the offices? Who are we electing as leaders? If somebody just comes and throws a popular thing, and maybe Alex would get me on this, sometimes manifestos don't work. It doesn't matter how brilliant you are. Neto is talking about a party that has this vibrancy. No one listens to what parties are saying. And that's the moral decay of a country where from the leadership we are just messed up. So what do we expect when we elect leaders and who, by the way, are looking at that elective post as an opportunity for them to get rich quickly? Because we have shown them that. When Alex comes and Neto comes with a brilliant manifesto, with a brilliant agenda for the country, we are like, we ngoja kidogo, because hiyo story ni poa, lakini do iko wapi? And for those of us who are smart enough, we've shied off from being in government so that we can make changes from inside. Why? Because we are these guys who believe, mazee, watu wameenda huko wamekuwa corrupted, so I don't want to do that. So brilliant minds are not coming up to take government positions, therefore being able to influence policies and regulatory framework for the better of our country. We are leaving that to guys who are like, mazee ni MCA, we think an MCA is an awkward job, so that guy who's an MCA is supposed to make laws that protect you at the county level, but is a guy who took that opportunity because Neto is not there to be on the ballot. So my take on this, as we try to fix things, we can be very perfect in pointing out what is not working, but let us get into the waters and start to swim. That's why personally as Walton, I said, you know what, I will be in government so that my opinion does not become an opinion, but I have an opportunity to change it from a point of capability.
And Linda, that's why I told you already that I like this gentleman.
That it's wow, honestly.
He agrees with us that we do not need BBI to fix the moral problem of the country.
Okay.
So that's the problem.
Let's drop BBI. Let's drop BBI and pick what he has said. The role of the electorate is crucial. And now let's go to Tanzania. Now that you addressed, like you are fronting CCM bwana. Lakini za you
just so that we get it right, is that the United Green Movement Party has nothing to do with Chama Cha Mapinduzi.
We need to do it.
That is number one. I mean, the problem is that our color code is the same. But now, just so that I start from where Walter left, I think it's true that some political parties' manifestos are things that you cannot give effect. We have tried as a United Green Movement Party to give manifestos that you want to effect. Environment. Just the other day, we launched, 2 weeks ago, we launched our 1 billion tree planting campaign. That is something we can do. We want to plant fruit trees for the country, for people to benefit. And we also want to plant fruit trees for purposes of helping us with climate change. That is something that we can do. We do not want to promise people things that we cannot do. We are talking about social justice and equality. We know social justice issues. We're asking the women questions right now. Even with this BBI thing, we've told the women that they've lost big time. Article 97 of the proposed BBI takes away the women reposition, so that we are speaking for the women, and that's why we're saying reject it. Why? The small gains that the women had made in the 47 seats has been taken away. The small gains that 12 persons with disability had gained, the people with the disability has been taken away. And that is why we're saying, as United Green Movement Party, we're having a political party manifesto that we can really affect. So when you're opposing BBI, it's not because we want to play big shot. No, we're just calling Uhuru Kenyatta and Prime Minister Raila Odinga that they're out of order. So as a political party, we're already living the ethos of our party. And on youth unemployment, that's why we're very critical. We're saying Article 55 of the Constitution gives the youth of this country all that they require. What we ask of the presidency is just to do that which is in the Constitution by making sure that the youth realize their rights. But now to Tanzania, I really think...
don't you want Alex to say?
I was just about to say, Linda, next time, please, don't call us with him. He's campaigning against the BBI on this show.
Well, I'm glad, I'm glad that it's a conversation that is on for everyone, so yes.
But I'll visit the party.
You need to. At least with his government, you're guaranteed of a job. All right, Alex, Tanzania.
And I think you're right that you can't discuss this and then you jump to something else.
Yeah.
All of us need to have a chance to be able to speak our minds. I just want to quickly say that I'm very impressed with what Walter have just said, that we have a moral decay. We have a moral problem in the country. And that's why I'll say this many times, Walter, that the top organs of the government have refused to obey what they have set for the country to obey. And if they don't obey, then the country has no moral obligation to obey those things. And really, that's our problem. Does the BBI fix that? Not in the least. And for me is to think about what he's saying, that we need to rethink completely. And the only way that this can be done is if we have a change. And that change must be generational. In the African traditions, we always had elders in the village, and the elders rule for certain periods. I'm sure in every community. And there's a point where the younger generation became of age, and if the older ones refused, they were forced out, because leadership is never given. And when I address to the under 40s in this country, they must realize that the future is in their hands. They are 80% of the population. So really, the future is more for them and their children, and it's time they took up. Whichever means they have to do, they must take over so that they can have a different kind of thinking. And so that this nation can be where it should be. The only challenge I have for them is that they must find a way of thinking 50 years from now what will happen. So that anything that you don't do a constitution in 2010, and in hardly 10 years you want to change it. You haven't even implemented it. You must have a long-term view of things so that you can see it. The conversation that goes around is that China, the engineers now are planning their cities 50 years from now. Because what they're implementing today was planned 20 years ago. Do we have that kind of thinking? No. We are doing the road that delayed Walter to come here. We thought about it 2-3 years ago, and now we are going about it without thinking, how do you create bypasses so that people don't get inconvenienced by that construction? You understand what I mean?
Okay, Walter wants to come in.
Yeah, actually, one of the things that I always say
We have a very brilliant country.
Yeah.
And this is not diplomacy, this is factual. Some of what you're seeing being implemented right now was thought about 30 to 40 years ago.
Okay.
For the longest, you thought that the bypass was a Kibaki thing, it wasn't. By 1973 fiscal planning of Nairobi Metropolitan, those routes were marked. As we said, the moral decay, you know that thing of you're not thinking about 30 years from now?
Yeah.
That thinking was there in 1973, where somebody decided to build on a reserve and a place that has been reserved for a road because they are like, so when it came to being, that's when you saw demolitions happening. Why? Because the reality on the ground is that the plans did exist. But I just want to say this. I feel the pain of my president. And we can blame him, we can say this because he's responsible for the country. Yeah. And so he must be able to take that blame. I want to say this, that the same constitution becomes a hindrance to some of the radical changes that anyone would want to make. And that is why I say I feel the pain of my president. Because the constitution has provisions that, by the way, you can't violate. And by respecting the constitution, some of these shenanigans do happen. Because you are having public, what you call public participation on a role that I've told Alex, you are my MP, you have a right to represent me, but I have an opinion on how you need to represent me. Yeah. So but we contradict, so Alex is not able to do anything because the same constitution locks him. The president would want to make some radical decisions, which personally I would be of the opinion that maybe as a country we were not ready for what we call democracy.
Okay.
Maybe countries like China that have dictatorial democracy, guys seem to be having, a democracy, but there is a certain protocol that we must follow. If the president has to give an executive order and it's respected, for me, I would want to go for that style.
Linda, the posting.
Neto, I know I excite you to talk, but I ask you to please allow me to finish. And I don't take longer than you.
Okay.
It's only that I catalyze you to speak. I wanted to say that we can't in totality say that the government is not working. We can't say in totality this is not working, so let's throw it out. I think it's important for us to continue to have a long-term conversation. If this country has to change, it's not for Neto, it's not for Walter, it's not for Alex, it's not for you. Yeah. It's for the future that we are talking about. But of course we understand that today people must eat. Today people must live. And therefore that is where, when we don't strengthen government institutions, what do we expect? When we have IEBC, which we don't strengthen, when we have parliament, which we don't strengthen, judiciary, we are not strengthening it. We are always finding loopholes and things to fight each other. How do you expect us to progress? And personally, as I conclude my thoughts, is I'm looking at anything that I'm doing today. It's not a quick fix. It's not an instant coffee.
Right.
It's an impact that probably will be felt 10 to 15 years from now. And therefore, that is what I'm prepared to do.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, gentlemen, I do not know why we are not sensitive to this. We actually need 3 hours, honestly.
2 hours, Neto 2 hours. And
but you all are overlooking the Tanzania issue now. Neto, it's back on you. Let's talk Tanzania. Because regional stability is crucial.
I will go to Tanzania, but before I go to Tanzania, let me tell you why I wanted to cut Walter short.
Yeah.
He cannot start blaming the Constitution for the Constitution limiting the president's powers to do certain things. Okay. Then he talks about institutions being crucial. The Constitution is the greatest institution that you have the world over. Yeah. So a respect to our Constitution. In fact, the reason why the Constitution is supposed to be that way, it's supposed to limit you. Power excites everyone. Power excites, so to an extent that if you do not have your power limited, you'll go overboard. So I really think that, yes, it is true that the Constitution constricts the presidency to a certain extent. And that is why they should not remove those constrictions in BBI. They want to have this president who can appoint, fire. No, leave it as it is. Just do what the Constitution wants you. Create jobs for youth. That is number one. Number two, institutions are good if they function. You see, if Parliament was to function in its order, to check the president's budgets, to check the president's vetting, if the institution of Parliament, the presidential system that we have, in the check and balance, in a manner that the Parliament checks the legislature and the judiciary and the executive, we will have a good country. But what has the presidency done? He calls them to the House of the Hill, he reads for them the Riot Act, all of them now are children, they hide and they start crying. So you can then not blame that particular constitution with regard to with regard to the president's failures. Because if the president allowed himself to be checked by the House of Parliament, it'll be very good. Now to Tanzania.
Wait. Before you go to Tanzania, let me ask you something.
All right.
I want to ask Alex. I want to answer this question.
The older you get.
You keep quiet. I want to ask you, what is the role of Parliament?
Yeah.
How do we get MPs? MPs are elected members by the people to be representatives of the people. So when they fail their mandate, is that the president's responsibility? It's not.
I don't know the meaning of that statement. Relative that the parliament has failed, relative to the debate on the presidency, but the president needs just to obey the constitution and the laws that be there.
And if the constitution,
that
is what the president is doing,
Walter,
wait. Alex,
I want to give two examples, please.
Alex,
hold on. If the Judicial Service Commission is supposed to select judges,
41 of them,
and the government has a representative in that commission, in the Attorney General, and all of them sit down and agree that 41 people qualify to be judges, and the Constitution say the president shall appoint the ones who are selected by JSC, he can't turn around against that law. He's just got to go ahead and appoint.
And Alex, I'm giving
that one example.
Let me give you two more examples, then you can proceed.
And I'm giving that one example. I could give myriads of them where the constitution has not been obeyed. In terms of even if the basic court order has not been obeyed.
And you see, Alex, thank you very much. So apart from the appointing of 41 judges, but the president also should dissolve parliament. The Chief Justice had advised him that this parliament is unconstitutional, so he should dissolve parliament. But the third one, which is more crucial for me, is that in this BBI, you people are claiming to give counties 35% of the revenue to the counties.
From 15.
From 15. Article 2 or 3 of the Constitution, Part 2 says, a minimum of 15% shall be made available to the counties. So if the president only gave a minimum of 15, in fact, if he even made it 50, nothing would have stopped him. In fact, this conversation about BBI and telling counties that now you're going to have 35 and above. So, Alex, there are moments when the presidency has looked us in the eye. So now you can proceed from there. We've just told you the president, first of all, should dissolve parliament. He should give the counties 50% of the revenue without amending the constitution. And, appoint 41 judges without all of them dying. So there is so many things that is not...
That's the reason why you're a government official, all right?
At this point, I would stop being diplomatic and defend my president and the government. I'm just kidding. On the appointment of the judges, we need judges, right?
Yes, we do.
When the list is presented to the president and the president maybe raises his concerns on various reasons, and I think that should be a right that is also given to him to raise concerns. And just because he's been told just appoint and you're given a list of people, you should, if the president raises an objection for whatever reason, I think it's for the president of judiciary and the president and the executive to actually sit and say, which of the 41 do we have an issue with, so that then the process is not stalled because of Alex, because of Neto, or because of...
What was the role of the Attorney General?
No, but wait. Linda,
why was the Attorney General there?
Linda, let me say something. Linda, let me say something. Linda, let me tell you something.
Neto.
And this is now why you need the study of constitutional law. What is the president's role in checking the judiciary? He does not check the judiciary by telling us in the list of 41, there are 20 that I do not like. No. His role is to appoint. If there are issues, the Constitution, which you do not want to obey, sets procedures of how to remove those judges. At that point, the president is supposed to appoint a tribunal to say, Neto, Alex, you're bad judges. I have appointed a tribunal to investigate you. That is the principle of check and balances. So you do not come and cherry pick that now because I have seen 20 names I do not like. No, that's not how it works. So please.
Plus, this is taking a little bit too longer.
I wanted to say this. I would say this, gentlemen. We can debate here and we can sit here and we can have various angles to the same statement. I think what my opinion was just in response to what Alex raised, and I was giving my opinion based on that. We can argue out a lot of things and we will never get an answer. My thinking here is, as we said, these are our opinions, these are our thoughts. We are just sharing. Otherwise, I would want to go all the length to just defend every position, which I don't think is fair to all of us.
Right.
And I'm not being on this side of the fence, I'm being on this show so that, Linda, we can have our opinion.
Yes.
I agree with you. And I agree with you. And Linda, let me tell you something. Walter, we respect your opinion. And we want you to be with us in this particular debate. The only thing we will not allow you to do is to tell us the wrong things about how not to obey constitutions and say the president is constrained. Okay. That we will not allow.
And I think when you get home, please play this step back. When you go online, you will find that I'm not saying we shouldn't obey the law.
Okay.
And I think I'm very, very clear in terms of these are the limitations that we have,
yes.
And we get excited of what the president should do. Almost like the president should fire that guy tomorrow, because that guy is not, the CS for health is not delivering, so he should be fired tomorrow. But the same constitution, when it's being respected, there's a process by which we must follow to remove somebody. So we want quick fixes, but at the same time, the president has to respect that constitution, and by doing so, I liked the Moi days. You would be fired at 1 o'clock and no one would care.
Yeah.
You're on your way, and the 1 o'clock news, you're fired. That is when things happen, and everybody will be happy that, oh my God. But when you respect that constitution, it begins to tell you that as much as I don't like the way things are happening, I have to respect the law.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, Linda.
Now that we're talking so much about Kenya, we have overlooked Tanzania for a moment. That will be our last subject.
We have our own issues here in Kenya.
That will be our last subject. Well, there were rankings. I don't know whether you gentlemen saw the rankings of governors. You have worked at the level of the county for a moment. Uparanya, sitting in the chair of the Council of Governors, it seems to be working so well. I do not know whether we should go by all this report that is coming from, from Infotrack, from all these bodies that are meant to give us the statistics, but yes.
When I look at these rankings,
yes,
it reminds me very much about our education system.
Yeah.
Because a few years ago, a good number of years ago, I did Kenya's Certificate of Education from a school called Oloitoktok Secondary School. I was the best student. Actually, in third division, I was the best student.
All right.
And because of that, from Oloitoktok Secondary School, I applied to go for A-levels to Nyeri High School.
That's
across the country. Nyeri High School by then was among the top 10 schools in the country. Blowing a bit of my trumpet.
Which is allowed.
I have no apologies. The older I get,
I'm coming to mind.
So when I went to Nyeri High School, we had, I was doing this maths, physics, chemistry, man-power combination, if you remember, those who are old enough to remember man-power combination. Do you know what happened, Linda?
Right.
We were 22 boys in that class, and I was the second last.
Okay.
To an extent, I had whatever marks I got in KCSE, there was only one boy from Samburu who was below me. The rest were so much ahead of me that I had Division 1 at the end of 20, and majority of the class had Division 1 of 6.
Okay.
Which means I was the best in Loitokitok. I was the best of the worst.
Okay.
So that is what this ranking is all about.
All right.
It's the same thing you see ranking for members of parliament. And I'm happy that the last one was a scandal, because the organization that was doing the rankings was not even registered.
Okay.
There are people who are paying advertising organizations to do this. So for me, this ranking is the same thing. Rank the worst and get the best out of them.
But, well, they are helping in a way for us to have such conversations like he says, rank the last.
Linda, you need to tell Alex that next time he comes on set, he does not mention the name of Oloitoktok as a secondary school where people are sitting. There's a reason why I was saying that, because if he starts mentioning the schools,
you just want to do your kamkunji.
No, he'll appreciate that Oloitoktok should not be a school to discuss national TV. But anyway, I think I agree. I agree with the ranking of Infotrack.
Yeah.
And my governor is third last.
Sadly.
That is where he belongs.
Oh, yeah?
That is where he belongs.
It is terrible.
I mean, in 2015, as a member of parliament in Diwa, I told the people of Homa Bay County that this governor they chose was a fraud. People thought I was disrespectful. They thought I was really leaning to the Uhuru Kenyatta side at that time. I called him out. There is no healthcare functioning in Homa Bay County. There is no agriculture functioning in Homa Bay County. The governor is simply a fraud. But it's a good answer.
He was part of my questions because it is not the first time that he's being ranked amongst the. He is not even pulling up his vote in any way.
It's a fraud. I was a fraud.
Net on you on that on one thing. No. I would want to go with Alex.
Okay.
If we are going to discuss individuals here, mentioning his governor being numbered last and everything, I think I'd want to take the position where Alex has taken, in the sense that let's talk about ranking in a global perspective.
I would want to believe that's correct.
Okay, that's where I'm headed. Yes. But that's where I'm headed.
Remember,
but also appreciate that I also come from a county that has been ranked third last. And I am saying, to the extent that the services that my governor is supposed to be giving me, there is no road, there's no healthcare, there's no agriculture.
Now, can I jump in?
That ranking, and pause. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. I've also been to Kakamega County. And you see, like I told you, I'm a leader of a national political party. So I've had a chance to be in Kakamega. Oparanya has done something with the stadium. Oparanya has done something with his rural road network. Oparanya has done something with the country agriculture. So, I mean, let's give credit to where it is due. I've done the same in Makweni. So a comparative study.
Thanks, Thanks, Neto.
Thank you for being the moderator. Okay.
This is my thinking. Just because the ranking works in his favor, he wants to support it because his governor has been ranked what he thinks and his opinion.
All right.
What if the same ranking gave his governor number one? What would he be saying right now?
I'll be applauding it.
My thinking here is, let us look at the ranking from a global perspective. Number one, we do know that some of these institutions that rank people have been paid to do a certain job, to create a certain perception.
But at least they take us to a point where we can have a conversation.
Listen, this is what it is. You didn't go and ask to represent your people or give service to your people for you to be ranked nationally. We don't care what happens in Kakamega nationally. If people in Kakamega don't feel you, we don't care in Kisii or in Kiambu or any other county of what number you are. What do your people think of your services? Now, does the ranking give you depth of what is happening in that county? It doesn't. These are situations where you are elected to deliver service to the people, period. I don't care.
Isn't the depth coming from what people, what it is that Linda is saying?
Let me say something. Linda, these two gentlemen now look like not even understand the principle of how development works. Development will happen across the country if Homa Bay does its job, if Kisiolo does its job, if Lamu does its job. That is the principle of devolution. Where do you devolve? You devolve so that the small units can bake for the national level. So if at all Mong'are here wants to tell us that, it does not care what happens in Kakamega, it doesn't care what happens in Isiolo, that sucks from the national budget.
And I'll ask this conversation of revenue share that, really stalled up projects at the level of the counties was first of all based on this aspect of marginalization and everything. Really, if we're to go with this, which is something that I do not want to focus much on, but reality is that you find some of these marginalized counties, or the ones that purport to be marginalized, are amongst the low-performing counties, based on what is here. All right, okay. Well, gentlemen, I am just trying to decide what it is.
It is expected, because this is a PR exercise, 100%.
Okay.
So hence, some people don't have time to come and do the PR that is necessary for them. I don't know, where is Kajiado? Where is Kajiado ranked?
Let's look for it. Kajiado is somewhere here. As we look at it, yes, 33. Ranked 33. Okay.
I would not give 33 minutes to discuss the findings that are baseless, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's a PR exercise, and I agree with Alex. I will not now go into details to discuss this.
All right, let's talk devolution. Let's talk devolution and the fate of devolution. In every conversation that we're having as a nation, we all say that it's the best thing that happens to us or is happening to us today. Really, have we done the best of it? Or what can we do to ensure that, yes, indeed, devolution is well felt, well strengthened to a point where the persons down at the grassroots we are going to experience devolution, appreciate what it's doing to our lives.
Linda is looking at me, so I start.
Yes.
Thank you. One of the things that I'm grateful about the Constitution of 2010 is that it gave birth to what we are talking about, devolution. Now, 8 years ago, this thing called devolution never existed. The first 5 years of any governor, the governors would not pretend to have gotten it right. the first 5 years would have been spent doing institutional framework that then sets the pace for what you call delivery of devolution.
Yeah.
The second bunch of 5 years
you know
would
what I
go
want to
into,
tell you?
let me finish, Linda. Today now I'm going to be tough. Just because, the next
I
5
want
years.
us to go back to the report that says, the second-term governors have done well.
And I want to then discuss that report.
Okay.
And please throw it and keep it to yourself. It's an opinion just like ours.
Yeah.
I can give you an opinion of what I think about a certain county, but that's my opinion. The second 5 years of devolution implementation would have been to review or try and at least to see what you put as institutional framework for delivery of the services for what devolution stands for.
Right.
First, I applaud the process we have made.
Okay.
The mistakes we are making is what you call accountability. Accountability to me is not accounting. Accounting is you were given 3 shillings. How did you spend the 3 shillings? Accountability is you are given 3 shillings.
Right.
You lost 2, but can you account for that loss so that we are able to learn from that? And I think all the mistakes we are making are okay. It's for us to keep running the agenda of devolution, and until it works, we have no right to now say, oh, by the way, hii kitu work just because of a governor's mismanagement or a governor's not being able to put the institutional framework properly.
Yeah.
The devolution is working, and we must give it time for it to materialize.
Well, I think we still allow NATO the latitude.
No, Alex, I'm the one moderating.
Let's make this brief.
I realize
time is
you
literally
like,
not on
you
our
like
side.
NATO. Alex, speak.
Alex was the last one to speak.
Could I just make a comment?
Sure.
I want to say this, that when we discussed the 2010 Constitution, we spent about 15 years doing it, from 1997.
Yeah.
This was Boma draft, there was all these, remember the referendum in 2005 that went under. So this was collation of ideas from Kenyans. And one of the things that was critical in that constitution, in my opinion, there were 2 key issues. One, we didn't want an imperial president. We didn't want a president who can appoint prime ministers and their deputies and sack them on 1 o'clock news. We wanted institutions established so that there's a process of appointing everyone. Number 2, we wanted the services to come down to the people. And that's why the whole thought of regional government came up. In my opinion, we made a mistake by splitting it so much so that they became tribal cocoons. I wish we'd have done what the suggestion was, 14 counties that would be economically viable, as it were. But since we are here, devolution is the best thing that happened to this country.
Thank you.
Because the leadership and the services to the people was meant to calm down. And I'm thinking that we are being so critical about a system that is hardly 80 years old, that it had to have its own teething problems. I applaud the first-term governors.
Exactly.
I know a good number of them became robbers, just like the rest of the people. They robbed from their people. But I applaud them because they came in and started establishing systems for running that never existed. And I think for that, I applaud them. We've learned many things, we've learned very many mistakes, and we shouldn't sit here and criticize that system, because the system that we want as a country, that the services are closer to the people. I see a situation now where the executive arm now is twisting the county governments, the county commissioners and all that. And I think that in going forward, we must review. It's not in the constitution, but we must review that so that the governors can have a latitude to be able to give leadership to the units that they have been given.
1 minute strictly, Neto. Close down on this one.
Devolution.
1 minute.
Devolution is a good thing. And I'm having travel to places like Wajir, Garissa, places which didn't know development before. I think devolution has really helped them. And as you can see, Wajir put up a very beautiful hospital, amongst many other things. So devolution actually works. Number 2, is not to dismiss the opinion polls. By saying that the opinion poll is correct does not mean we're dismissing devolution. It is just being aware what the people are saying. Opinions is science. People are saying that Kakamega governor has worked very well. Homa Bay governor has not worked. It is for Homa Bay governor to up his game as per the way the Kakamega governor has done. The third thing we need to do is I think we need to strengthen the county assemblies. The county assemblies, and that is why I was happy in the annexes with the county assembly fund. You know, the county assembly Assembly Fund is going to enable the members of the county assemblies to be strong, to argue, to have a fund that makes them independent of the governor. Because right now what you've had is governors who put the MCAs in their pockets. The county assembly fund in the annexes, not in the BBI report, is going to be a good thing for purpose of strength and devolution. The fourth and the last thing I'd like to say on this one, because I only had a minute, is that I think the presidency tried to give out the devolved functions too fast before the institutions were well established within the counties. So then you ended up with a healthcare infrastructure that was not ready to absorb the healthcare work. You ended up with an agricultural infrastructure that was not ready to take up the agricultural function. The presidency should have stuck to the constitution, because the constitution said the devolved functions were only going to be handed in 3 years of the election. Some of the first-time governors were very excited. They thought it was an easy thing. So the president messed them up by giving them all the roles. And in the process, we messed up devolution. But I think it is something that we need to strengthen because it is working. And because it is working, the president should ensure that the Article 203(2) of the Constitution is respected by making sure that not less than 15% is going to the counties without BBI.
I should even be all right. Well, hold it right there.
This way.
No. Walter,
on behalf of my president, I'll put it this way. I will not. I will ask my president to continue being the president of this country.
All right.
We are not going to be responsible for a weak leadership from the county.
At the level of the counties.
All right.
Let's close it down.
And so when you say that we are twisting them, unfortunately, it's their responsibility to be a strong leadership to represent the aspirations of the people from their counties.
And that
our job at the executive and the job of the president is also to run the country
at the national level. So.
And I just want to conclude and say, before you even ask, and this I plead on Alex and Neto to think with me.
All right.
We can't even begin to talk about give us more money when we even have issues of accountability with the little.
With the little that we have.
Yeah,
all right.
That's all I would say.
Hold it right there. Gentlemen, I call the shots in this case. So we are not leaving this set without talking about Tanzania. And those should be your last part. Mpende msipende because I call the shots out. Tukimalizia. Regional balance is critical. And it's highly dependent on the stability of a single nation. So yes, we have to talk about the democratic process that is ongoing in Tanzania as we close down.
All right.
A minute, and we wind up.
Alex, you haven't spoken. Thank you,
Walter. We have a situation in Tanzania that is very interesting.
Yeah.
Over the years, I hope you know that CCM is the longest serving political party in Africa.
Yeah.
From the time of independence, they have ruled Tanzania. And for the first time, CCM is facing, in the last election, 2015, they faced a huge opposition from, was it Mwanawasa? But I think in this instance, it's even bigger than that.
Right.
And unfortunately, Tanzania has gone the direction that Kenya went many years ago. Dictatorial and gagging the media and gagging all these things that our late Moi used to do in this country, and that does not portend well for a country. So that even if they have a very peaceful election this time, it sets up precedents where in the next election there will be disagreements that can erupt into violence. I wish that Magufuli had held it back, because he's, in my opinion, and based on what you hear around, he's done quite well for the Tanzanians. He's held back corruption. He's done quite a number of things that have helped the country. Yeah. I wish he gave space in this political space, and not to think that just because he's been good, that he must be the one who rules the country. But we wish them well, because stability of Tanzania is, of course, our stability. We want them back into the East African community in the real sense. They're just there by name, but they are not really members of the East African community. And for that, we are wishing them well.
All the best.
Wishing them well.
All right, well, he's taken 30 of your seconds, so worry not. We're coming to Neto, and then you'll do 30 seconds.
I think that Tanzanians have done very well to keep calm.
Yeah.
President Pombe Magufuli has been a disappointment. He has violated fundamental freedoms. He has conducted a fraudulent election. He did a couple of things when he came into the office in terms of strengthening the Tanzanian economy. He was tough on corruption and issues like that, which was a good thing. But I think then he just made sure that he grew into a monster booster. And I really think the opposition leader has done very well. Whether he wins or not, I think he has scored. He has done very well. He has been subjected to a lot of violence. He's been subjected to a lot of, Tanzanians are being denied media space on the internet. I think this in this particular age and day is decadent. This is where Kenya was 30 years ago. It should be condemned in the strongest terms possible. It does not matter whether Magufuli wins the presidency. I think he leaves it with a whole heart of shame on his head.
Wow. Okay.
Linda, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here. And,
thank you.
And I think I wouldn't be happy if I left the set without saying there's a lot to celebrate about as a country and as Kenya. And by the way, you are wearing Safaricom colors, so I was wondering whether you have received the 20 MBs.
Why do I see the Safaricom colors?
Yeah, so there's a lot to be grateful about.
Yeah.
I think when we talk about internet shutting and everything else, there are things that a country must do for security purposes in any country. We don't talk about Ethiopia a lot, but when you go to Ethiopia, when it comes, and Alex would attest to this, they are very strict on internet use and everything else for purposes of security. When you go to China, they have their protocols on internet use. There are countries that even if you are there in Dubai, you can't call using WhatsApp, and the people in Dubai don't complain. I think we should be easy on what we call fundamental rights of people. Just because you have a right and you're using it to abuse and you're using it for wrong reasons does not mean I should now let you have the rights. And I think we must also allow the government to do their job. When it comes to Tanzania, it's important to note that we connect and we rely on each other as an economy in East Africa. So Tanzania it's best of our interest for it to have certain stability. I'm not a Tanzanian. I don't live in Tanzania, so I would not have a big opinion over it other than what is in public domain. I think we must allow them to do their thing the best way they do it. They give us a president who we will work with. If they give us Pombe, fine. If they give us somebody else, rigging will always be there. Where a winner and a loser are there. Do you know rigging claims, not rigging. Rigging claims would always be there. Neto did not let me finish. He was so excited about rigging.
I was laughing.
Rigging claims would always be there so long as it's a competition. People would always feel it was not fair because they didn't win. And I think it's a natural human thing that if you win, then everything was okay. If you don't win, then there was fraud.
There's a problem.
So for me, this is what I would always say. Let the Tanzanians practice their democratic rights. And up here in Kenya, we have another 2 years to go into a democratic process. And Neto, as you go out there with your party, please let us not be sensational. Let's not sell our policies against other people that Alex didn't do well, so I'm the right guy. Let us give Kenya a fair opportunity for them to choose. And this is an opportunity for you, Neto. What Alex said when it comes to devolution, it's not about the tribal, it's not about because I'm a Kisii, therefore I must go to Kisii to vie. The space is there, the democratic space is there. I would want to see your party having people running for elected posts even if they don't come from that community. And I would love a situation where Alex is running for a governorship of Kisii County, I'm running for Nyeri as a Kisii, and that space is available. That's what I would say.
Okay, well, we all look forward to such a moment, honestly, because they said when we talk about evolution, sometimes we have, made tribalism be our root. That's why we have governors coming from the same regions and all that. So if we change the face, then certainly we'll be a better Kenya. Director, Youth and Development, Executive Office of the President, Walter Mong'are Sr., thank you so much for your time. And UGM Party Leader, Agostino Neto, thank you so much for your time. And lastly, Alex Mwati, Political Analyst and Engineer, it was great having you this morning. And that's where we get to wind up this session as we cross over to a different session altogether. We talk money matters after this break.